Tuesday, July 1 edition of PFT PM. It is, amazingly, the 16th anniversary of the moment that the switch flipped, connecting PFT to NBC Sports, a licensing agreement that provides all of our content, written, visual, audio, whatever. Everything goes to NBC. I can't believe it's lasted as long as it did. Although when it started, I didn't have a sense that it was going to be a short-term thing. They had a need, we had a need. Our need was mainly the traffic was overwhelming the technological capabilities, and I was going to have to write a very large check in order to keep things going, with no guarantee that the revenue would be there to offset the expense. So it's been a very good relationship for PFT. It's all revenue and very limited expense because NBC provides everything: the infrastructure for the website, the writers, everything. And 16 years. I don't know how much longer it'll last. I could be fired at any given moment. The monster is hiding under the bed that could cause me to say something that will get me fired, or NBC could just decide, you know what, we're sick of dealing with this guy. We're sick of all the phone calls from 345 Park Avenue about the stuff this guy says about the National Football League in an effort to make it better. Again, when someone asks me, why do you hate the NFL? I don't hate the NFL. I love the NFL. I love it enough to try to make it better. And I hold the NFL to the ideals that were projected by the indoctrination methods of the early 1970s, i.e. NFL films, the slow motion football in the air, in the elements, as more and more teams duck out of the elements into dome stadiums to make more money. The voice of John Facenda, Harry Callis, all of that. It made me love the NFL. And sorry, NFL, you created the monster. You put yourself on a pedestal and I expect you to stay on. Okay, Rodney Harrison's on a couple of different pedestals. Our good friend and colleague is now going to be in not one, but two Halls of Fame. Is it Hall of Fames or Halls of Fame? Let's go with Halls of Fame. Patriots and the Chargers, where he started his career from 1994 through 2002, finished up with the New England Patriots. I think it's overdue for the Chargers to put him in. It's also overdue for the Pro Football Hall of Fame to put him in. I know I've got a bias. He's my friend. I at least admit it, but I think he deserves to be in. When Bill Belichick says this guy deserves to be in, Bill Belichick, I think, deserves a little bit of, credence and deference when it comes to his assessment of historical football realities. Yes, Belichick has done some things in recent months that have invited some scrutiny and criticism, but he also is one of the most accomplished coaches that pro football has ever seen. And if he's a believer in Rodney Harrison, the voters should believe in Rodney Harrison as well. The Chargers do, the Patriots do. Congratulations to our good friend Rodney for an incredible career, not capped by, because the Super Bowl wins came right after he started in New England, but ultimately the two different franchises, the two jackets that go along with being in the Halls of Fame. Congratulations, Rodney. Okay, let's get to it. Will T.J. Watt eventually be in two Halls of Fame? Will he be undergoing a mid/late prime career change? That's one of the big question marks coming out of the latest example of what is a total and complete personality change by the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. I still don't know what's caused it. I assume it is the record futility when it comes to winning in the playoffs. Since the first time they won a playoff game in December of 1972, they've never had a streak this long between postseason victories. From the DK Metcalf trade and sign with a market level contract to waiting indefinitely for Aaron Rodgers and aging over the hill, some would say, many are saying, franchise quarterback. I still think he's better than any of the options they otherwise had by a long shot, to trading for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith while giving up Minkah Fitzpatrick. And, I'm just going to press pause on the T.J. Watt angle. I saw someone arguing yesterday that the Dolphins got the better of the deal because they got Minkah Fitzpatrick. Look, something was off with the Steelers and Minkah Fitzpatrick last year. If you pay attention to the Steelers, you know that there was something that that wasn't right. And this may have worked out perfectly for the Steelers. They just wait to the right moment. The Dolphins don't have a viable alternative for Jalen Ramsey or Jonnu Smith, and boom, the Steelers grab both of them and unload a guy that maybe the window had closed on his overall effectiveness there. Don't know what the issue is, but there was a vibe last year that things were off between Minkah Fitzpatrick and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it's all part of this effort to get better. And it's addition, and for Minkah Fitzpatrick, maybe addition by subtraction. Will they be subtracting T.J. Watt? We've just assumed that they'll do what they did the last time around. He held in during training camp, and near the conclusion of the preseason, he got a long-term contract that made him, at the time, highest paid pass rusher in the NFL at $28 million a year. In the last year of that deal, with cash flow of only $21 million, he is at about half, if we just focus on what he's due to make this year, of the top of the market. I'm told, and we reported this last night, the two sides are still very far apart. And T.J. Watt is prepared for whatever outcome may materialize, even if that means a trade. And we saw the flurry of reports yesterday, the delayed reaction. What does this mean for T.J. Watt? Multiple teams plotting a potential attempt to trade for T.J. Watt. The Steelers having no intention to trade for T.J. Watt. Haven't we learned what no intention means? No intention is the down payment on the trade. No intention is the sign the trade is coming. We have no intention to trade Percy Harvin. We have no intention to trade Stephon Diggs. We have no intention to trade, and I can't even remember all the others, but anytime they break out no intention, and I know they didn't say it directly, but NFL media said it, so, I mean, it's basically the same thing. NFL media is an arm of the league, and it's 32 teams. Oh, they get mad when I say it. Sorry, truth hurts sometimes. It's an arm of the league, and it's 32 teams. They say no intention. That's the Steelers saying no intention. So what happens next? See, if you're going all in to try to win a playoff game for the first time since the 2016 season, keeping T.J. Watt would seem to be part of the equation. Now, two caveats to that. Number one, they've never won a playoff game during T.J. Watt's career. I mean, it may be solely a coincidence, and it has nothing to do with T.J. Watt, and I'm convinced of that. But I could see, if we had access to the clumsy internal conversations a la the ones we got to see last year involving the New York Giants and their Saquon Barkley deliberations, I could see someone just kind of pop off at some point. Well, we never have won a playoff game with T.J. Watt. Someone who's in the let's move on from T.J. Watt camp. And I feel like there has to be at least some vibe in the organization that this isn't just about making him the highest paid player at his position, the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL at the proper time. I feel like maybe there's something more going on, and they're engaged in a broader conversation about whether or not the time has come to flip T.J. Watt for value. Remember, this is the team, when free agency first started, remember the Blitzburg zone blitz 3-4 scheme. They still use it, but they had a revolving door of great pass rushing linebackers who would become free agents and leave. T.J. Watt, the first one, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you will. I think T.J. Watt is the first one that got a market value deal. He's one of the few, because it was, this guy's a free agent, let him go. That guy's a free agent, let him go. That guy's a free agent, let him go. And they'd replace him and replace him and replace him and replace him. Maybe the Steelers think they can replace T.J. Watt. I don't know. Their record when he doesn't play, their record when he's injured, not too good. And I think if you are going to move on from a T.J. Watt, that's the kind of thing you need to do early in the offseason and plan for it and get your team, get your players accustomed to the idea that this guy who's the heart and soul of the team isn't going to be there. As I sit here and think out loud, I can't imagine the Steelers doing it. I think they'd be far more likely to just let him play out the last year of his contract. Maybe they kick in some extra money and let him become a free agent next year. I don't know. I can't imagine them moving on from T.J. Watt, because what would the impact be on this team where they are trying to go as all in as they ever have? This is the first time the Steelers have ever given an all-in vibe. Damn the torpedoes, let's just try to win. And really, what would their new quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, What would he think about T.J. Watt moving on for draft picks next year? Now, there's two ways to look at this. One, you do a deal where you replace T.J. Watt with people who will come in and help you this year. That at least preserves the we're trying to win now vibe. If you trade Watt for picks in 2026 or beyond, that's not going to help Aaron Rodgers. And this is where you have to balance winning now versus the future. Because they have to assume that come 2026, they're going to be looking for another quarterback. Oh, wouldn't it be nice to have multiple first-round picks in 26? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to move up and get a franchise quarterback? Now, you may have competition because the Rams may be doing that with their 2 first-round picks. The Browns, we're going to talk more about quarterbacks in a minute, but the Browns, who knows? Who knows what the hell the Browns are going to be doing? Do the Browns even know what they're going to be doing? You could have multiple teams trying to use multiple first-round picks to move up next year, but that's in the pro column if the Steelers are thinking about what would be unthinkable and moving on from T.J. Watt. Bottom line, two sides are far apart. Watt's ready for anything. What are the Steelers going to do? And maybe they're just playing it coy. Maybe no intention is aimed at getting someone to make an offer that would make the Steelers say, we just have to do this. And think about it. Whoever would trade for Watt, and this happens anytime there's a player who's available who wants more than his current team will pay him, the new team has to pay him what he wants and give that team something to shake the player free. So you have to really love T.J. Watt. If you're going to give him the contract he wants and whatever the Steelers would want by way of a draft pick, the other side too, the more that a team is willing to give the Steelers and pay Watt, it's kind of like, maybe you should just pay Watt. The other complicating factors we discussed yesterday, the Micah Parsons situation. I think right now Watt would be inclined to wait and see what Parsons gets, and Parsons would be inclined to sit and wait and see what Watt gets. And it'll take something to break that logjam. And I think a team that would show up and make the Steelers an offer they won't refuse and give T.J. Watt market value money, even if he's ultimately leapfrogged by Micah Parsons, I don't know. But I know this. Steelers have an issue. Steelers have a problem. And if I'm T.J. Watt and I'm seeing all this money getting thrown at guys who never played for the Steelers, from DK Metcalf to Aaron Rodgers to Jonnu Smith to Jalen Ramsey, not that Smith has gotten money thrown at him yet, but maybe he will, because one of the issues in Miami supposedly was he wanted a new contract. I'm T.J. Watt. I'm the guy who's been here. When are you going to take care of me? You got a sweetheart deal from Aaron Rodgers. What are you going to do with that money? You going to take care of one of the best defensive players in the NFL, the heart and soul of your team? The guy who, when he doesn't play, you can't win? It's going to be interesting, to say the least, over the next couple of months, especially because I think this time around, Watt is more willing to dig in for what he wants. Speaking of the Dolphins, who gave up Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith and brought back Minka Fitzpatrick, who I believe wanted out when the Dolphins were trying to tank for Joe Burrow in 2019. And someone pointed out yesterday they were trying to tank for Tua. No. Tank for Tua was before the 2019 college season started, and everyone realized that Joe Burrow was far better. Then it became, we want Burrow, not Tua. They ended up with Tua as the 5th overall pick. We thought he was going to be the 1st overall pick going into the 2019 season. Burrow became the clear consensus, no-brainer #1 overall pick. That's who the Dolphins and Stephen Ross wanted. Ross really wanted Joe Burrow and tried to trade for him. And the Bengals refused to even engage the Dolphins in contract discussions, which I think in the abstract is stupid. In isolation, it's stupid. You don't know anything about whether or not this player is going to pan out. But the stubbornness paid off for the Bengals because they got the much better quarterback, the best quarterback in the class by far. I know Justin Herbert still has a hive of fans who overlook the fact that he's accomplished nothing when it matters most, but Burrow clearly the best of the bunch. Anyway, back to the Dolphins. My friend Big Cat says dysfunctional teams do dysfunctional things. And what is dysfunction? Dysfunction is the failure to function properly. Think about the issues the Dolphins are dealing with in late June. Moving on from Jalen Ramsey in late June. Moving on from Jonnu Smith in late June. Having to find another tight end in late June. Normally functioning organizations get this stuff taken care of before the league year begins, when they can go out and they can sign another tight end. They can trade for another tight end. They can draft another tight end. They get people there who are going to be part of the team and engaged in the offseason program. You handle all this business before we get to the end of the offseason program. At the latest, it's handled at the draft. That's what properly functioning teams do. Properly functioning teams don't make a player the highest paid in the league at his position in September and decide 7 months later they're done with him. That's not what properly functioning teams do. Properly functioning teams don't pay a new contract to a receiver who has a habit of blowing hot and cold about things and at the end of the season says, I want out, and then changes his mind. And that uncertainty, that vibe is still hovering over the team. The Dolphins right now, I'm sorry, shoe fits, truth hurts. They're dysfunctional. Can they find a way to function properly in 2025? Is it addition by subtraction to move on from Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith? Can they keep Tyreek Hill happy? Will someone make them an offer they can't refuse for Tyreek Hill? I doubt it. I doubt it. Who'd want Tyreek Hill at this point? I don't know, maybe for 1 year. Maybe the Steelers want Tyreek Hill. Maybe they can still. Man, Tyreek Hill, Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, that'd be something. Anyway, Dolphins fans got mad when I put them, I think, at 29 in the post-offseason program power rankings. I mean, as I said last week, somebody's got to be 29, somebody's got to be 30, somebody's got to be 1, somebody's got to be 8, somebody's got to be 14. That's how it goes. Not big on ties in the power rankings. Everybody's got to have a spot. I just don't have a lot of hopes for the Dolphins this year. They can prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I mean, look, I'm just giving you an honest assessment of where I think they are. And by virtue of the fact that they traded away Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith on June 30 and not March 15, that is a hallmark of a team that is currently dysfunctional. And if you don't like it, Dolphins, I mean, again, prove me wrong. Or do things that don't seem objectively dysfunctional. The NFLPA and the NFL have an interesting relationship right now, to say the least. There was a belief as of last year that by the time we got to this summer, there would be full-blown negotiations for a new CBA that would include 18 regular season games and 16 international games and other stuff. Mark Maskey of the Washington Post reported overnight, maybe this morning, maybe last night, I can't remember when it exactly hit, but it did hit my radar screen and attract my attention. The NFLPA not expected to engage the NFL in negotiations this summer. I had thought it was going to happen June or July. The two sides seemed to be positioning themselves to make a move toward a new CBA this year. Now, according to Maskey, early next year at the earliest. I'm not sure why. I think it's a good time to try to do it. I think the earlier the NFLPA attempts to do an 18-game season, the better it's going to be for the NFLPA, because it's the more years that the NFL can then have an 18-game regular season. And right now, 2027 is the season to watch, because that's the first season where the Super Bowl isn't locked in for a date. It's locked in for a city in Atlanta, but it's not locked in for a date. And if the next move over the course of the next, couple of weeks before preseason begins, before the regular season begins, is to have a specific date for that Atlanta Super Bowl that meshes with a 17-game regular season, that tells us the league has given up on any possibility of having an 18-game season by 2027. But the longer the NFLPA waits on something that is inevitable, and it is inevitable the league will get an 18th game. Push comes to shove, the current CBA expires after the 2030 season, the NFL locks the players out, and eventually that imbalance in bargaining where the NFL would use the nuclear option of no football for up to a full season and the players won't miss a game check, that'll cause the players to do what they did in 2011. Take the best deal on the table. 2020, before it ever got to the point where they were locked out, they had the foresight of understanding. They're going to lock us out and they're going to get their 17th game. Let's just do a deal to give them their 17th game now. So the longer the players wait, the less they're going to get. An unnamed source insisted to Maskey that the delay has nothing to do with the ongoing federal investigation of the NFLPA and the relationship with one team partners and whatever it is that was going on there. I tend to believe it probably does. Why would they come out and admit it? It's a must-lie situation. Oh, this has nothing to do. This has nothing to do with the fact that there's currently turmoil in the union driven by a federal investigation that prompted a longtime in-house counsel to write a memo that gives her whistleblower protections. No, that chaos has nothing to do with the fact that we're not ready to sit down and negotiate with the NFL. And I had someone who's aware of the dynamics tell me recently, this is the bad time for the union. And maybe that's why they want to wait. Because if they try to do it right now, it may not go well. Because you've got the union management reeling. You've got people on the ownership side of the equation sensing the opportunity to really come away with a great deal. Commissioner getting ready for a new contract. You've got multiple owners who this is going to be their last big CBA. You've got broadcast rights deals on the horizon. I really do think, based upon things that the commissioner said gratuitously after the ownership meetings in May, I think they're going to squeeze the players to take less than 50 cents on the dollar. I think that the league has realized 50 cents on the dollar only works to an extent. Once the dollars go beyond what anyone thought they were going to be, we really don't want to share it 50-50. We can get them to take less, and I think they will. It could get rocky. Keep an eye on the potential hiring of Bob Batterman again, or someone of his ilk who will shepherd the NFL through another lockout, because it's possible. Still, it's 2025. I mean, hell, it's 6 years away. Still possible. I think the sooner the union gets its act together and gets to the bargaining table, the better off the union will be. Now, look, I'm not necessarily advocating for 18 games, but I accept the fact that 18 games are coming and that 19 games will be after that. And eventually it'll be 20 regular season games and no preseason games. That's the argument that the commissioner has been using to go from 16-4 to 17-3 to 18-2. Next two steps are very easy: 19-1 and 20-0. No preseason games, no games that are below and beneath the NFL's standards. Every game counts in the standings and at the cash register. All right, I was asked yesterday which quarterbacks are on the hot seat. So I have a list, and I'm just going to go through them. And as I've said before on PFT Live, anytime a league-wide question comes up for me, I envision the standings in my brain. They're tattooed into my hippocampus or medulla oblongata or wherever in the brain. And I know I'm going to get tweets and emails telling me, well, actually, that's where it is. Wherever it is, here's what I have. AFC East, AFC North, AFC South, AFC West, NFC East, NFC North, NFC South, NFC West. All the teams in my brain, and I ran through them. Here's the quarterbacks who don't have any security beyond this year as a practical matter, which means they better play well this year or they're going to be gone or benched or with a new team in 2026. Justin Fields with the Jets, it's not a 2-year commitment to him. It's a 1-year commitment. Let's see what he can do. If he gets it done, he's back. If he doesn't, they'll go in a different direction. Tua, I know he's got 2 years of full guarantee. I think if the Dolphins fail this year and they hire a new coach, I think the new coach is going to want to move on from Tua. Tua is going to be too associated with failure by then, if they have another bad year. Too associated with failure to be part of the solution. And we saw what happened when he's coached hard. And I think the next coach will be closer to Brian Flores than Mike McDaniel on the hard-charging taskmaster, demanding type of head coach, which could cause Tua to maybe go in the other direction. In Cleveland, whoever the quarterbacks are, all of them, any of them that are on the roster are going to be on the hot seat this year because the Browns hold the Jaguars' first-round pick. And if the Browns decide after this season, let's just get a franchise quarterback in the draft, let's try that again, all of them could be gone. Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, they all could be gone by next year. Whoever starts, and we know how this is going to go, whoever starts is probably going to get benched at whichever point it becomes clear that whoever the starter is isn't helping the Browns be as competitive as they need to be. And then we move on to another guy, and he gets a chance, and another guy gets a chance. But that's why I think it's so important to get Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders real reps. Let's find out if they can be the answer. Because the broader question here is, what's the quarterback position going to look like in 2026? So they're all on the hot seat in Cleveland in 2025. Whoever starts in Indianapolis is on the hot seat. And both Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, starter or backup, they're on the hot seat. If it doesn't work this year, new quarterbacks on the depth chart for Indy in 26. Trevor Lawrence, I don't know. Is he on the hot seat? His contract might give him some guarantees, but Liam Cohen, you have new coach, new GM, new everything. If Trevor Lawrence doesn't get back to where he looked like he was in 2022 on an upward trajectory that maybe was going to carry him into the top 10, if he doesn't start making some progress there, new coach always wants his own quarterback. This isn't a Peyton Manning being inherited by Tony Dungy situation. This isn't a guy who has shown earmarks of shortlist franchise quarterback and the coach was fired for other reasons. Lawrence is part of the reason why there was a coaching change in Jacksonville and why Liam Cohen is now there to try to turn things around. So I'd kind of put him closer to hot than not. In the NFC, Russell Wilson, if he even is the starter week one. I mean, I continue to be a firm believer that if Jackson Dart is as good as the Giants believed he was, because they traded back into the round to get Dart, back into round one to get Dart. If they think he's the guy, he should be able to beat out Russell Wilson at this stage of his career. It's plain and simple. It's basic logic. But if Russell Wilson is the starter, he's obviously on the hot seat. It's just a matter of time before it's the Kurt Warner, Eli Manning handoff. That's what happened in 2004, the last time the Giants had, well, Daniel Jones was a first-round pick between Eli Manning and Jackson Dart, but they have higher hopes for Dart than Daniel Jones. They want Dart to be Eli Manning. And Manning, ultimately, after 9 games in his rookie season, was on the field. In the NFC North, I don't know, is Jordan Love on the hot seat? He's got 2 more years of fully guaranteed pay. There's just a weird vibe now with the new president taking over later this month. And we talked about this recently, had policy, doesn't want to do an extension with Coach Matt LaFleur or GM Brian Gutekunst before this season. So after this season, necessarily, it's either going to be extension or they're going to make changes. I don't know. Will Jordan Love be part of the changes? I don't know. I think he just needs to play a lot more like he did in 2023, late in the season, to earn that contract and cement his future. I wouldn't necessarily say he's on the hot seat. I'd say Trevor Lawrence is closer than he is, but I'm keeping an eye on it. Minnesota, J.J. McCarthy. By all appearances, they had a shot at Aaron Rodgers. They opted to ride with McCarthy. And I agree with that. Let's see what he can do. How many years do you give him to see what he can do? When you said no to Rodgers, and if Rodgers plays well in Pittsburgh, boy, that puts pressure on J.J. McCarthy. Will he get another year if it fails this year? Will they bring in real competition as a veteran for him next year if he fails this year? He's kind of, and it's a shame, he's never played other than 1 preseason game where he looked pretty damn good. I think the pressure's on. I don't know that it's hot seat. If it's not this year, it's definitely next year. But there's just pressure on him to prove that the Vikings got it right when they traded up from number 11 to number 10 to get him in the 2024 draft. Michael Penix Jr., I put him on the list with a question mark. I don't know he's on the hot seat. This is his chance. This is his year. Let's see what he does. Then maybe next year. If it doesn't work this year, then maybe next year. I think it'll work. I think there's just pressure, but not heat. Bryce Young feels like a big year for him. Year 3. Feels like he needs to play like he did post-benching. If he regresses, Panthers may start looking at other options. And they'd have to admit they got it wrong when they traded up from number 9 to number 1 in the 2023 draft to get Bryce Young. Whoever wins the Saints starting job is going to be on the hot seat because the Saints have to be thinking about 2026. Now, I don't think Arch Manning is going to be in the draft next year. Maybe the Saints are thinking about 27. You know, the teams with the connections to the Mannings are the teams that are the most interesting when it comes to Arch. Although the Colts and the Saints are really the only ones right now that are going to be the most viable. The Giants have their guy in Jackson Dart. They got 2 years to figure it out, though, if Arch spends 2 years at Texas. The Broncos have their guy in Bo Nix. I think the Cowboys are one to watch, too, 2 years from now. A lot can change 2 years from now. A lot can change 1 year from now for any quarterback. Kyler Murray in Arizona kind of feels like the clock's ticking on him to earn that contract and maybe lay the foundation for a future. Sam Darnold, we know he's on the hot seat in Seattle. It's a year-to-year contract. And the last one, I wouldn't say Matthew Stafford's on the hot seat per se, but he's in a clear year-to-year arrangement that he's perfectly comfortable with. And after each year, the Rams are going to decide whether to continue. He's going to decide whether to continue. And if the Rams decide he's not playing up to the standard, then next year, especially with those 2 first-round picks, the one they already have and the one they picked up from the Falcons, maybe they make their move and they get their guy to replace Matthew Stafford. All right, easy for him to say. A couple of questions before we wrap this up. This one's an interesting one. Matt Kavner asks, do you think Omar Khan, GM of the Steelers, is on the hot seat? And maybe that explains the big swings this season for the Steelers. That assumes that Khan is the one making these decisions. We never know in Pittsburgh who's really making the call. And I think Art Rooney, the owner of the team, is more involved than anyone realizes. I don't think he likes to advertise that. But I don't know how much of this falls on Khan. I don't know how much of it falls on Tomlin. I just think the organization is desperate. Now, will the desperation that has manifested itself in all the moves we've seen as it relates to players this year, will that result in some desperation as it relates to the coaching staff and the front office next year? If this year's moves didn't work, I don't know. But I don't think that Khan possibly being in any type of trouble would influence Khan taking the big swings this year, because I think it's more than just him. I think it's a collective effort to go out there and do things far differently than we've ever seen it from the Pittsburgh Steelers. David Mitchell, any updates on the Jon Gruden case? Now, the Jon Gruden case is still pending before the Nevada Supreme Court on the question of whether or not he'll be able to proceed in open court or whether he'll be relegated to the NFL's secret in-house rigged kangaroo court of arbitration. The last time I saw an update on this, I was told a ruling from the full Nevada Supreme Court could come at any time. And what happened was he went to the Nevada Supreme Court. A 3-judge panel found 2-1, he's got to go to arbitration. He filed a motion for reconsideration before the entire court, all 7 justices. That's what's happening. Could he win 4-3? I don't know. I feel like this thing is destined for the U.S. Supreme Court one way or the other. Whether it's Gruden losing in Nevada or Gruden winning in Nevada, I feel like the U.S. Supreme Court is going to get involved, and this thing is just going to drag and drag and drag. It was filed in November of 2001. We are going to be 4 years in this November, and we still don't know where in the hell the case is going to be pursued. Chuck, will the NFL investigate Jim Harbaugh for the allegations made in the lawsuit arising from the Matt Weiss hacking scandal, or does the NFL not have any power since it happened at Michigan? Hey, the NFL can do whatever it wants and will do whatever it wants. Remember when Harbaugh was potentially coming back to the NFL? NFL media was putting out there this idea that there might be some sort of a punishment imposed on Harbaugh to simulate whatever his punishment would have been as he was going out the door in Michigan. They did it to Jim Tressel. They did it to Terrell Pryor. You know, the NFL is very sensitive to its relationship with college football because college football is the NFL's free farm system. So I don't know. I don't know. But at the end of the day, one thing we've seen from the NFL, it does whatever it wants to do, especially when it's dealing with non-union employees who don't have that union protection, that labor contract that spells out the rights. All that's left is the contract signed by the coach, and all of those contracts contain a clause that allows the NFL to be the judge, jury, and executioner as it relates to whatever the league decides to do. Scott Mason, are you coming back onto Sky Sports in the UK? I haven't gotten an update lately. Our run that ended with the start of hiatus on June 13, that carried us through whatever the arrangement is between Sky and the NFL. I don't know where that stands. Hopefully it gets worked out by July 28. And the issue is very simple. Sky needs to have an NFL agreement in order to air our show because our show has NFL highlights. So you can't have a show with NFL highlights if you don't have a deal with the NFL to show NFL highlights on your network. The alternative is to provide them a version that would have still images and not video, which is possible and which I've committed to arranging if it gets to that point. I just need to check and see. We love our relationship with the NFL fans in the UK. They're very passionate. Person to person, they're more passionate than the NFL fans are because they don't get as much football as they want. So the truly zealous NFL fans in the UK, they are top 10% equivalent of the NFL fans in the US. It's just a fact. And I've learned it over the 6 or 7 years that we've been associated with Sky Sports, and PFT Live has been a staple of the daily schedule on Sky Sports NFL during the season, Sky Sports Action when it's the NFL off season. Stefan Peterson, apart from the Seahawks, who is the next team you believe will be sold? I don't know. There isn't one out there that is clearly a hot spot where there's anything that's percolating. I'm surprised that with the values of the teams going up and up and up in recent years, that there hasn't been an owner who's decided, you know what? I'm good. I'm out. I'll take my $10 billion. I've had my fun. I've maybe won a Super Bowl or two. I'm not trying to hint at, the Chiefs or the Eagles or the Ravens or anyone else, but it's easier to close the book on your time as an owner if you have won a Super Bowl along the way. It's easier to justify it. I've done everything I can do. I'm grabbing the cash and I'm moving on. A lot of cash. But, there's a certain point, and I'd love to have the ultimate champagne problem of having so much money that I don't know what to do with it. But isn't there a certain amount of money where number one, it does not make your life any better. Number two, it's just more work and more effort to make sure that money's all properly positioned and situated in estate planning and interest. I just wonder what that number is. And I'd love to find out. It's like finding out the number of licks it takes to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop. I'd like to know how much money it takes to get to the point where you're like, oh man, no more money. I don't want any more money. I just can't handle any more money. So, assuming that there is no such number, I feel like one of these owners, one of these days, is going to say, 10 billion? Good enough for me. 12 billion? Good enough for me. I mean, hell, the guy who got pushed out got a $6 billion parting gift. That's a hell of a punishment. $6 billion on an original investment that was under $1 billion. One last question. Emmanuel, do you believe that the players will use the leverage that the collusion ruling provided to get anything for the next CBA? And what do you think that would be? Easy answer. No, I don't think they'll use it. Why do we know that? Because when the ruling came out, and it wasn't just the ruling, it was the evidence in the ruling, the text message exchange between Dean Spanos, the Chargers owner, and Cardinals owner Michael Bidwell, which to the average person reeks of collusion. The internal communications in Denver where Greg Penner, the former Walmart CEO who would have given no F's whatsoever about what his business decision would do as it relates to Walmart competitors like Target. All of a sudden, he's like, oh, the other owners will be happy with this. You're competing with them. That's the kind of stuff that the NFLPA should be using. The ruling that the league encouraged/urged the teams to collude, and the facts that contradict the arbitrator's ruling that they didn't collude. That should be a hammer that the NFLPA is using, starting with a press conference, efforts to work the back channels politically, legal challenges, anything and everything. But they stuck it in a drawer. and they hit it. So no, they're not going to use it. That's why players should be upset. They should be asking questions. Why aren't we using this thing? Chris Long is. Nobody else is. I don't know whether it is fear of reprisal or whether it's apathy. I don't know that individual players would have the same fear of reprisal that like agents would have, because as I said yesterday, the agents are concerned, I can't piss off the league, I can't piss off the union, I got to do business with both of them. And I don't know, certain players, I guess, have to worry about poking the bear because certain players aren't good enough to poke the bear and continue to have an NFL career. That's why, as Chris Long said, what it's going to take is a franchise quarterback to say, I'm just not playing. And I think the best candidate would be Lamar Jackson. I just don't think Lamar Jackson understands, because he doesn't have an agent to explain to him what the actual import of this is and how this hurts him and how the NFL did go about colluding in a way that resulted in no teams reaching out to him when he was available on the non-exclusive franchise tag, and the arbitrator accepted every excuse. Oh, he gets injured, and you have to have a different offense. Well, you put the offense in. He doesn't fit our offense. You make your offense fit him. That is such a load of crap. Well, some teams wouldn't be interested in Lamar Jackson because they don't run an offense that Lamar Jackson. You hire an offensive coordinator to run a Lamar Jackson offense. You don't even call. They didn't even try. It's amazing. Yeah, if Lamar Jackson had a quarterback agent, CAA, Athletes First, one of the top agents, to say, hey, Lamar, they made you look like a fool here. They knew what they were doing. Your phone didn't ring because no one else was going to offer you a fully guaranteed contract. You were never leaving the Ravens. And then he ultimately accepted something other than a fully guaranteed contract. So, could he say, I want a fully guaranteed contract right now or I'm not playing? Yeah, he'd have daily fines and he'd lose game checks. I don't know. Does he care? You have to pay back bonus money. He's the perfect one to take a stand. And I think if he did, the Ravens would probably give him a fully guaranteed contract for 5 years, starting from today. All right, before we go, I've been failing to do this. You know what? I'm probably over for today, but let's just get this done because I'm going to keep forgetting. Somebody last week wanted a little show and tell on some of my favorite trading cards. So in no particular order, this is the Fran Tarkenton rookie card that a good friend of mine gave me when my son was born. It's technically my son's card, but possession is 9/10 of the law. Besides, he'll get them all when I croak anyway. Another good friend gave me Alan Page rookie card years ago. This one is mine, but it will become my son's. This is one of my all-time favorite cards because this speaks to the level of ignorance that I had as a kid. I just love the look of this card because it's a night game with Fran Tarkenton, but I didn't understand why he didn't have the horn on his helmet. I thought the horn must have come off during the game. I didn't realize the whole thing with licensing and they couldn't show the logos. It took me a while to figure that out. I just thought, man, what a coincidence. Every time they take pictures for football cards with helmets in them, the logo fell out. Why do I never see that on TV? All right, a couple more here that I brought down. I got a lot upstairs. How about a couple of non-football featuring Michael Jordan? This one is supposedly worth some money. This is the Michael Jordan Upper Deck baseball card, Chicago White Sox. The holder is really gotten yellowed, but the card is in great shape. I think this thing it's hard to tell what anything's worth when you look it up. The range for any of these cards is ridiculous. I guess it's worth whatever someone would pay, but this one's not for sale. But this is my top baseball card, and this is an old basketball card I have, and I don't think it's worth much money, but I love it because Michael Jordan's number 23 was missing for that game, so he had to wear a jersey with number 12 without his name on the back. It's not even his card. It's who is it? It's Sam Vincent, but Michael Jordan's in the foreground wearing number 12. A couple of other rookie cards that I've always cherished that got the old-fashioned way, opening up the packages of the Topps playing cards. Steve Largent back in the 70s. Earl Campbell, happy with that one. And this is the one, I'll tell you the story real quick before we wrap up. 1976 was the year that I was obsessed with getting every card in the top set by opening the packs. And obviously, the closer you get, the harder it is. And I finally got the last card I needed. I think I traded with someone from the last card. I broke my rule because I wasn't going to keep buying these damn packs because that one last card, it was a needle in the haystack. It was Gene Fugate, the former Washington tight end. That was the last one I needed, and I finally got it. But I have all those cards upstairs. When you buy that many packs, and, my dad had a bar, so he actually was able to buy things at wholesale. He'd get the whole box. Like for Christmas, I got a whole box. That was like greatest Christmas gift ever. A whole box of football cards where you open it up and all the packs are in there and it smells like that bubble gum that'll break your teeth. Anyway, for some of the players in the 1976 Topps run, I've got like 8, 9, 10. For the one that is the most valuable, I only have one. And fortunately, it wasn't at the top or the bottom of the stack with the rubber band that ruined the cards because they all got rubber banded together. The Walter Payton card, another one that I don't know what it's really worth, and it doesn't matter because it's never getting sold. It'll go to my son. This one is the prize piece of the collection. This is the one. If you rob my house, this is the one you'll never find. I keep it on me at all times, the Walter Payton rookie card. Anyway, that's all for today. Thanks as always for some of your time. We've got 2 more PFT PMs this week, Wednesday and Thursday, and then we will take off Friday, the 4th of July. Check us out around the clock at profootballtalk.com. See you back here again tomorrow. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.